Feeling stuck? Yeah. What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Grind.
BTG!
If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. And please don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any of our future content. Our podcast is for those who want to go beyond the grind. My name is Kay.
I'm Alan.
And I'm Tosin. And today, we're going to be talking about those of us that feel stuck. All right. I'm going to personalize it a little bit because I've been a CPA now for
forever.
Since birth.
It feels like it. I jumped in quite early because in college, when I came here for college, moved to the U.S. for college, one of the deacons in our church owned his own CPA firm. And my parents like, you need to go and work for him. You need to go and work for him.
That's the thing about Nigerians. You can only be like two or three things: accountant, a doctor, or lawyer.
So I was like, okay, no problem. I guess there's no, one of these Starbucks jobs, like these college type of jobs. So I dove both feet, both hands, everything into the accounting industry way back in 2004 or something like that. So dating myself here a little bit here.
2004?
Yeah. Yeah.
Were you 5?
I started college in 2003.
That's true. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So at least I got a free year or whatever. But I'm saying that because over these years that I've been building and kind of building my expertise in, the CPA world, whether it's, accounting, tax, strategy, being a CFO or controller, fractional to our clients, consulting, building up our clients and their businesses and so on. It feels like I've gotten to that point where almost like my calling is now I can see something different from my calling. Rather than I want to be an entrepreneur in accounting, there's this call, there's this itch that has been coming. And it's really by looking at, it came about because of
perhaps a need?
Yes, we can call it a need, but it's like the problem. It's like I'm trying to solve a problem that I see with those around me. I don't know if it's a wide problem, but it's a problem in the network that I have, right? In the clients that I have. And what I've been unintentionally building was to be that center of trust for a lot of different people, right? And with that, I get a lot of feedback. Not just we talk about a lot of stuff outside of accounting and taxes and so on, because being a center of trust, you unintentionally also become a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a confidant and so on. So you tend to hear these issues, and I felt like there was many issues that were pretty much like cut across even different types of people from different backgrounds, whether male, female, old, young, whatever it is. And many of it just revolved around, hey, what if we can work together?
Yes.
So I don't want to give off too much of a secret of where I'm going.
You got us. It's a mark of a good storyteller, right?
No, I gotta, because I don't want to give too much of this next project, next phase. But what I'm now feeling
giving teasers, previews, trailers.
Maybe it might spill out. But where I am now, I feel like I'm in a crossroad.
Okay.
Right.
Feeling stuck.
That's right. Because on one hand, we've got an awesome CPA firm.
Right.
We've got great people.
Right.
It's doing well. We've got great clients. Yes, we're still looking to grow, and we still have our issues. We're growing. We've got processes, all kinds of things still moving. But there are this other project that is burning in my soul that it's like you need to get this.
Yeah.
I know
you need to get this going.
Yeah.
And if you don't get this going, will you feel fulfilled,
or will you regret that you missed that time or
That's
opportunity
correct.
to do it?
That's correct.
I feel you on that.
So I'm feeling
Sleepless?
Well, bruh, I sleep well. You know, there's one thing about me, like, there's very few things that will take my sleep. Because I need to wake up the next day
And function.
No, not just function. I need to be like
to
knocking
thrive.
home runs.
You need to thrive.
The
I
next
get it.
day. So I need to sleep, wake up at my 5 a.m., go to the gym, look at all these other crazy people that woke up even before me to come to the gym.
By the
I feel
way,
like, okay, you know
We
what?
want to say we're proud of you for being consistent and keeping it up.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm getting my Allen swole on, all right? As y'all can see.
But I can actually relate with that because back in 2018, I was in the same boat. When it comes to feeling stuck, most people know I went to school for accounting, and I graduated.
What?
You didn't know
I'm kidding.
that?
I knew.
I went to school for accounting, graduated, and my first job was a financial analyst. And for some reason, it just didn't match with my personality. But I was like, you know what? Let me get the experience. And I did it for a couple of years. And eventually, I got bored because I'm like, everybody around me came to the office and said, I can't wait till it's Friday. And I'm like, is this really the type of life that I want to live?
Yeah.
And I got introduced, from there, I got introduced to the mortgage industry. And I think that's when I kind of like got to learn a lot about, mortgage banking, right? I started doing selling mortgage-backed securities. So for context,
That's how it cracked. That's you're the one who led to that
2008.
2000. You said 2008, right?
I said
And shortly
2008.
Part of
after,
him. He's part of
it.
I heard 2008.
But mine was
Sure.
basically,
Nah, I'm
I was basically a day trader, right? So essentially, what I was doing was, because I was as a mortgage company, you're always trying to balance your risk exposure, right? So what do I mean by risk exposure? I'm saying like, you got to have a balance of people 700 score and above, people 600 to 699, and people below, right? So my job was to look at our portfolio, and I'm buying and selling mortgage-backed securities based off of what we currently have, in our portfolio. So if you get a letter in the mail saying, hey, you're no longer, going to be paying to your mortgage to Wells Fargo, you're going to be paying to Bank of America. That was me in the background, buying and selling. But I did that, and I was making really good money. But I got to a point where I felt like it just wasn't it. To the point that, Sunday night, I wasn't excited for Monday morning, not because of feeling anxious, but just because I wasn't being challenged. I didn't feel motivated. I didn't feel like I was making an impact, and I didn't feel fulfilled, right? And I think when I got to that state, it just became, okay, what do I do?
Yeah. I'm in the moment feeling it. What did you do?
I mean, I did a lot of things, but I thought you was going to tell your story.
Oh, you giving us another preview?
I'll tell you later.
Yeah, okay. Well, okay. So stuck. For me, it's been like being stuck has been.
Unless you never felt stuck before, then we should understand because,
Alan be back hundreds. Hundreds.
No, I feel like you can ask anyone that knows me, as you guys know. I always feel like at some point I go through phases of feeling stuck and then stuck, feeling stuck and then stuck. But not that many times, but a few times through career. But for me, I would say the first real time I felt stuck, because I feel like in life I'm 0 to 100. I don't really. It's hard for me when you guys say feel stuck. I can't really stand the going 50 miles an hour. That's not how I'm like toasting, like he said. Like I'm itching. I got it. I have to do it. So I'm at 100 or 0. So I think throughout life, I always felt like this is my purpose, and I had this whole plan for myself, and like when I got to being a dentist, I knew I was going to open my own practice. I just didn't know, or I was going to be in some sort of ownership. I felt that way just because I saw how things were going. I saw how my classmates were going. I saw that this is what I want to do. And I just didn't know what it looked like. Right. So I actually tried to be a partner in at a couple other offices, but I saw how it was structured, and it was in some of the, at the time, not every office, but at the time, the offices I looked for, it just felt like I was still being an associate doing 10 times more work and earning the same with just my name on the door and no autonomy. So I didn't go that route. I ended up deciding I'm going to do my own thing. And when I told my classmates I was going to do that, I was like, hey, I'm going to move to Dallas and I'm probably going to open my own office next year.
Where were you living before?
I was living in D.C.
We came from the same
Howard.
place.
Yeah, you knew that.
That's
you knew
where he went to.
And they were like, yeah, you're crazy. You're great. What? We just got a degree. And I was like, look, man, I've been working this summer. Mind you, it was just a summer after we finished everything. And they were like, yeah. I was like, I don't know if this is for me. I'm going to give it this year. And if not, I'm going to be out. And one thing about me, if I say I'm going to actually do it, know that it's happening. If I'm for real, I've already primed y'all about it. So next time one of my friends is like, bro, we called you and you were like, hey man, you want to go get some drinks? I was like, I'm in Dallas
already.
Are you here? Are you in Dallas? Like, what? How'd you end up in Dallas? I've been telling you for months I'm leaving. And then he was like, fast forward another few months, like, yeah, man, I'm trying to associate it. I was like, oh man, I'm opening the office. They're like, what? Like, and for me, it was the autonomy. I needed the autonomy. I needed a purpose. I felt like I was stuck in situations where I worked at. I felt like it was holding me back from hitting my potential, to being able to grow in my skills, in my treatment, control, and kind of, I just felt like at certain organizations, there were rules to how they did things. And sometimes I felt like, okay, is this in the best interest of the patient, of me, of the staff? Like, I felt like my hands were tied. And then I couldn't, when you're an owner, you learn a lot, from marketing to managing people to all this. And I felt like, I couldn't really do things to that extent, and I was limited. So I felt like it was limiting my growth and my impact, like you said.
So it wasn't about the money, it was about the autonomy.
The money was a plus.
Okay.
But to be honest, I could have made the same money not being an owner.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's 100% factual.
I can testify.
I think my skills, I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew I needed to have a lot of skills to get there. And that's what I ended up doing throughout dental school, residency. When I came out, I took a bunch of courses, advanced this, advanced that. But it was ultimately being in control of my own destiny, having the autonomy to, if I decide like, hey, I don't want to be here for this amount of time, I can go. If I decide, hey, I want to do all these treatment and start to finish, the patient can see me, and I can help them do what they want. I can train my staff how I want. Just a lot of autonomy where I felt,
culture.
Yeah, I get to set the culture. I get to be the type of boss that people want to be around and stay with, versus like, yeah, we like you, you're the associate, but I hate this organization.
But let me ask you this. What was the time difference between when you graduated first till you opened up your first practice?
Less than 2 years.
Less than 2 years.
I went to residency. I was done. I worked. I moved. I was getting my job. While the place was being built, I was, boom.
Okay, so you didn't just do a 360 and just quit and just go start like
No. I graduated dental school. I did residency for a year. I was thinking about doing OMFS, which is oral maxillofacial surgery. I decided I didn't want to go that route. At the end of that year, so I graduated, I was a dentist. I did residency, it was optional.
Okay.
So I get all my surgical skills and all the other advanced skills. And then I took a lot of courses in that time. From the time I decided I wanted to open my own practice, I was an associate. But in that year between that, after residency, I was like, I got to take all the extra advanced stuff that I didn't get in residency, sedation this, ortho this, whatever. And I got to find a place. And then I moved, and I moved to Dallas. I was like, boom, I'm going to find a place right now. And it was like go time. Because to me, I had like, in my mind, I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm giving dentistry a decade of my life and going hardcore. Not to say I'm not going to do it longer, but it's getting a decade of my life and see what happens if I really give it all that I have.
Right.
And then if it doesn't pan out, then, there's always other things. I mean, I have an MBA in finance. I might go join y'all, So, but that's a little bit long, but I get feeling stuck, but I think you gotta evaluate, like, what do I want? What is making me feel stuck? Can I achieve this? And to your testimony, it's like, It's the feeling you have of like people are very stuck and scared to move on. But if you have the opportunity to do it, obviously plan for it, but you gotta, in my opinion, you gotta do it because you're 10 years gonna fly by and you still feel stuck and you didn't do anything.
Well, before we tell them about jumping out, I think maybe let me throw this question to Kay. Like, how did you identify that you were feeling stuck and you weren't able to make that impact?
Yeah.
Like, what were those things? Give me something a little bit more concrete that was happening at that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned before, I wasn't feeling challenged. And to be more specific, I remember we had a meeting, right? And it's a all hands meeting. And usually with all hands meeting, like what anybody will tell you, like one of my favorite things to do is to have strategy conversations, because this is where you really, really get to, you get the best of me, right? Because I throw something out, you challenge me back and forth. And I remember when I first got to the company, I was doing a lot of that. I was heavily involved. That's actually how I got to my position, because I came in not having any experience. I came in as an analyst, and within a couple of years, within 2-3 years, I worked my way up into leadership, right? And I realized that while we were in meetings, I wouldn't even participate. I would be quiet. I was just, I felt a sense of stagnation where
understimulated.
Yeah. And then on top of that, there's this need for me to feel like, because I would look at what everybody else is doing, and I saw how their work, how it made them feel good about themselves, how they feel like they were making an impact.
Yeah.
And only thing I can think of is, all I'm doing is sending people letters in the mail saying that they're not paying to Wells Fargo anymore. They're paying to Bank of America.
Felt mundane.
I mean, at the beginning, I was excited because I was working with a lot of loan officers where they had direct impact with people's, American dream, home ownership,
ability to buy. Yeah.
Right. And because I was part of the lock desk team, I was part of that. There was some sort of excitement. But then it got to a point where, okay, yes, this is cool, but how am I directly impacting? And is this actually in line with what I want to be known for? Right? Because it gets to a stage where you're trying to build a career versus legacy.
Yeah.
And for me, you're slowly getting to late 30s and you start thinking like, okay, is it about the paycheck or is it about feeling really, really good about what you do? Feeling excited. So for me, it was the lack of participation in strategy meetings. It was, me coming to work and thinking about outside of work, what's happening. And then 3, like when I leave work, I feel like that's when my brain really starts, goes into motion, because now I'm really thinking about ideas and what to do, right? That's how I knew I was stuck and I was checked out.
Yeah.
Nice. I think for me, the point, I might not call it feeling stuck.
Okay.
Right. It was maybe more of a higher level, higher calling.
Okay.
Let's say it that way.
Yeah, because stuck can be interpreted as you don't know what to do next, right?
Correct.
Okay, good. Because I didn't know what to do next.
So I guess from my perspective, it's not that I don't know what to do next, but I feel like there's just a lot of logistics that need to happen for me to be able to do this next phase.
Yes. Like somebody to replace your current spot?
Let him explain.
It may be somebody to replace me, but we've got a great team.
Okay.
Right. Probably good processes, an understanding of the clients too. Somebody to replace me would be nice if we can, if we can find them at the right price. You know what I mean? If you out there, reach out.
So it sounds like what's going on now is that you know where you need to go, but you feel like your foot is caught in something and you gotta free it so you can go there.
Thank you. Great example.
That's kind of what you need.
Great example. All right. But you're also worried that, you know, if you let go
Not
of this,
foot.
I'm worried. Sorry, I am worried that if I let go of, you know, this one that, or the day-to-day involvement that I'm in right now, like I'm a little afraid that it's going to
crumble
change.
and
It's going to crumble. And
but you
some
can't
of us,
hold on to both.
Well, some
That's
of us
the issue.
we gotta hold on to both because one
For
is
long.
bringing
Let
money,
me say
one
that
is
for
a
long.
dream.
For like, you can't hold on to both for long. At some point, for one to rise, you have to like focus your strength on one, on the other, right?
Correct.
Because at this point, you're just like juggling.
So I don't know. I mean, I think it's.
But there are ways to mitigate that because
That's what he's trying to do.
Hand
it off to your hand so he can hold this with 2 hands.
Obviously, with Alan, because I was really shocked when Alan said, "Oh, I'm already in Dallas." You know, he didn't have something big established already. Does that make sense?
No.
For me, you know, I'm just an employee. So if I leave today, on to the next one. You know, they're going to be interviewing the next person the next day.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But for you, you have something that you've built.
Yeah.
You spend a majority of your adulthood, or at least outside
working adulthood,
building this thing.
Yeah.
And now it's time to, you know, go to that next phase of your life. But you also remember that this current phase of your life as a family man with a wife and kids.
Bills. Don't forget the bills.
You know, living in a great place in the DFW area. You know, you got to be careful on how you maneuver.
He has to just strategy. I think it's planning, right?
I would also add, you know, there are some great relationships that we've built.
Yes.
But one thing is that I believe once I mean, not everybody is going to jump on board on this new venture that I'm going into. Yeah. Or at least that I'm
already in it, right?
Hey, come on in. Come on in.
Just making sure as you were. Continue.
Because not everybody might jump into that next venture with us, but I think they will see how it relates to what we currently do now and how we've been pivoting. I think I've just been blessed that somehow I think God has been working somehow in our business to where a few years ago, and I mentioned this on previous episodes, like we started restructuring the firm to where now our senior managers are having their own customer base. Right.
You eat what you kill.
Yeah. It's not all Tosin's clients anymore. Right. We've got your clients, your clients, your clients, your clients, and I just help you execute with your clients. Right. You might have questions.
It's like a franchise model, essentially,
Almost.
He's consulting within his own firm.
Hey, he charge a little fee.
They charge a fee.
Now everybody doesn't have to come directly to me and I triage it and then I give it to somebody else and then they give it back to me and I just become a whole huge bottleneck. Right. So we've been doing this for now a couple of years. It's working beautifully. Now, even when new clients are coming on board, let's say you were to refer a new client to us, it would just go to the manager that's handling you. It doesn't have to come to me to close that client. You have a relationship with the senior manager that you're working with and you just say, hey, yo, Meg, you know, I got a new person.
And I can vouch for him because he's already
working with you.
Yeah.
Right. So that type of thing has been happening. And I think that's why I said maybe I've been blessed. I definitely have been blessed that somebody has been working, has been cooking.
So things are falling into place for this bigger and better, not necessarily better or bigger, but this new opportunity for you, right?
Well, not new opportunity, but this new phase.
That's what I want to say. So they've been falling into place and now you're trying to basically structure everything so you can leave everything intact and be great as you go into this new phase.
Not just leave everything behind, but still find a way to make sure everything is functioning because the CPA firm is going to be a big part of this next phase.
It goes hand in hand.
Correct.
So
correct.
I got a question. Obviously, I mentioned earlier that our podcast is mainly for those who want to go beyond the grind, right? And that's the ambitious employee or the business owners, right?
Right.
Obviously, you've given stories about you being a business owner and how you want to, take that leap. I've talked about mine, how, I'm that ambitious employee and I want to take that next leap, right? For folks that are watching out there, what would you say, what strategy can they implement to help that transition be a lot smoother? At least to give them a sense of mitigating the risk as much as possible.
Alan, you want to take
I would say for me, it's a little bit easier to decide the plan for it once you understand where you're going. So you know where you're going. When you know the destination, you're more excited, and so it's gonna be easier for you to do the research first. If you want to leave something behind, again, we always talk about you got bills to pay. So you have to create either some kind of buffer, right? Either you create a nest egg or start savings, cut going out to the bar or whatever, I don't know. Wherever the money is going that it could be cut, you need to cut that and put that aside so that you have enough. 2, you need to identify once you've identified where you want to go, you need to make a plan on how to get there. And the fact is, like, what is it going to take this new phase to be self-sufficient and sustaining? How much money do I need? Do I need employees? All that. Do I need if you're going to build a new app, what tech guys do I need?
You need a K.
What do you need? Right. Find someone who's done what you did. What did y'all do to get here? Okay, let me estimate it. Then again, you kind of do a quick little trial and you don't really just want to jump ship into something new unless, there are times.
Alan.
No, I planned. I told you guys I planned this. I've been telling everybody for a year.
Executed and they didn't even know.
Right. So you just have to have your own conviction and understand, just like I have friends out there who's saying they want to do X, Y, and Z, but they never do it. Yeah. And I say, you can do this. Why have you not done it? And the key thing that it boils down to is that they say, I don't have time. You going on dates, you going to the bar, you hanging out, like, people who want to get where you're at, even if they went on a date, did all that, they come home at 2 a.m., they staying up to 8 a.m. getting it done. Make the time for that.
They do the 8 to 5 and then 5 to 8.
Right. It's just, the main thing is carving out your time, doing your own research first to see if it's a viable option. I think for the most part, the hardest part is for people, I feel stuck. Where do I go? So that's hard for any of us to tell you. You have to find what your motivations is. You don't have to love what you do, but you have to like it. You can't hate it.
Yeah.
So for me, I would say you first have to understand, are you in a temporary rut?
That's
or is this a greater calling?
Yeah.
Right.
Because a temporary rut, I would define it as, hey, I want a new job.
You're burnt out.
It's like, okay, I've gotten to the peak in this job, so I need to jump over to where I see there are more opportunities or I can grow more and so on and so forth. Then there's that stuck where it's like between what the path that you're on and a new calling.
Right.
Or a higher calling or an upgrade.
More aligned to
Not
where
even,
you are right now in the phase of your life.
No, it's a complete shift. This is a calling.
Yeah.
Right. We've got stories of folks, hey, they were business owners and they jumped into ministry type of thing. That's like you got to figure out, that's stuck.
Yeah.
Like you got to figure out, am I jumping into my calling or am I staying where I'm at here?
It's very hard.
Right. So you've got to figure out, one, are you in a temporary rut? And can it be fixed by, okay, maybe let me make minor changes, like jumping into another job and doing this and that, to see if I can feel unstuck. Or is it really that life-changing calling that's making me stuck?
Yeah.
Because if it's the latter, then there's a lot more that goes into it, a lot more planning, I feel, that needs to go into it.
For me, the advice that I would give folks out there is if you're feeling stuck, start small. Maybe something on the side that helps you to feel like, hey, is it something I can actually do? Maybe take on a project, work on that project to see, okay, do I have a good feel for this, right? touching on what Alan said about, the skill set, learning new skills to make sure that you're actually equipped to be able to, do that next thing that you want to do. And I feel like if you just strategically just take it one phase at a time, you'll feel a lot more confidence. Yes. But that's what I think. I'll let you close it out, Alan.
Yeah. Well, thank you for watching another podcast of, what are we called?
Beyond the Grind.
Yeah.
Right.
So our podcast for the dreamers who execute, for the employees on a mission, and for the entrepreneurs and business owners that are wanting to go beyond the grind. We just want to close this out, tell you guys to go ahead and live bold, grind smart, and go beyond the grind.
That's right. You can find us on gobeyondthegrind.com.
.com.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Peace.
Peace.
Bye.